was watching, when we first got, we
I need a
started
gavel.
getting
Where's the-
detailed
Yeah,
television.
Tammy's one with a gavel.
Okay, no, it's Dave. Sorry.
It is
His
my
moment
distinct
of glory.
pleasure to call this meeting of the Mill River Board of Directors to order.
Okay,
Please stand for the pledge.
that way.
They move it.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone, to this meeting on March 4th. Congratulations to our two newest re-elected members of the board, B.J. Barrett from Wallingford and Doug Earl from Clarendon. We're glad to continue to have you. And it is now time for board reorganization. So my responsibility is to solicit nominations for a chair. Is there a nomination?
Second.
I second.
Nomination for Tammy Heffernan has been made and seconded. Are there any other nominations for the chair? Hearing none. All those in favor of Tammy Heffernan serving as chair, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I was saying no.
Congratulations. The meeting is yours.
Do we need a note taker? I don't see Ann.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, that's true.
will you, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ann is listening to it, or she will, this DVD comes out in 24 hours. I'll pick up on myself, and she's going to go through that. I'll test it.
You
and
go
go
all
back
over.
with
Oh, so you had it, thank you.
Efficient.
That's good.
So I
doing a
guess
job
that
and I
when
don't
we
need
get
to.
to that
Need to
part, we
make him
know who
clerk again.
to make clerk again,
Yep.
do we? So, thank you, I think. No, thank you. I will entertain nominations for vice chair.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would like to nominate Adrian, that wonderful gal from, and I'll get it right, I hope, Shrewsbury.
Shrewsbury.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Tammy doesn't get sick. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of Adrian Reman as vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Congratulations. Thank you. And clerk, two other
Madam Chair?
nominations. Yes.
I would like to nominate that newly elected, or elected, I should say, gentleman from Clarendon. What's your name again? Doug Earl.
Mud.
That note taker over there. Is there a second?
I will
for Mr.
second
Earl?
happily.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other nominations for clerk? Hearing none, all those in favor of Mr. Earl continuing as clerk, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, there we go. Congratulations, Doug.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking notes this evening.
It was a hard fought.
Date and time for monthly board meetings. Thoughts?
Well, my opinion is that what we've been doing has been working pretty well, so I would suggest we keep up with the same format.
Do we have to do motions for these, I believe?
Well, we could talk about it first.
Yeah.
Does anybody have interest in, well, I guess, can we change it to?
I can't hear.
Oh, does anybody have an interest in changing it to Thursday?
Doesn't matter to me, but.
Or on off,
I
no,
would not be
okay.
able to make it.
On other Wednesdays, maybe?
The second and
fourth?
fourth?
Second, fourth, as opposed to first, third?
Every now and then I sort of, maybe I'm the only one who would like to go to our select board meeting. And they meet the exact same nights we do.
Oh, me too, actually. No, it's not true. It's
No,
Mondays.
that's for Mondays. I was
have a
just like, wait,
commitment on
we're in the
Monday,
same
sorry.
town.
But it's, school vacations are often on the 3rd, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
That might
I don't
always
have a
cuts out
huge,
our third one.
it's just a thought.
Does anybody want to weigh in? Amy, does that affect your work schedule?
Yeah, be honest, because it's just
Yeah.
convenience for me.
I think I have flexibility in that.
Well, because we would hate for our timid board rep to not be.
Right.
Is it,
right.
is
We
it
would
better
never
to have
live
them
that
on the
down.
first and third or the second and fourth? Have you worked
Oh,
things out or
so
or is
the
it just
first-
Wednesday?
The first and third are more convenient for me because I have work commitment 12 hours the second Wednesday of the month. So that's a big challenge.
Then leave it.
You don't want to.
Yeah,
So the first and third work better for me.
okay, I'm fine,
go.
I'm fine then.
One way to free
When
up.
is your Shrewsbury Select Board meeting?
At 7 on
On
first,
the-
on the
for-
first and third.
I was going to say,
I mean, I can just not show up sometimes if it's something
is
important.
the fourth Wednesday, since the third Wednesday does always fall on vacation week and we usually have to move it, is there any, oh no, because then we'd be meeting back to back.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
we want to just, I
Okay.
mean, everybody's worked their schedules out. I just wanted to
Could
put it
just
out
do
there.
the first Wednesday of the
Nope.
month. allowing you to go to the select board meeting on the 3rd.
You know, I feel very disconnected when we only have one meeting a month, and it's bad enough as it is, not having kids in school, personally, to not have twice-a-month meetings.
There you go.
That's just me.
I have a question about that, actually. What if we were to do, because the second board meeting a month is for professional development for us, is that correct?
We've landed on professional development and then a shorter board meeting with kind of pay orders as the primary focus during that second meeting.
Okay, I'm just thinking kind of out loud. Would it make sense, or would people be agreeable to having one board meeting a month and then like 2 retreats, long retreats? Because isn't that how we started? We were doing retreats.
We were
but we
doing
still had 2
retreats, but they
meetings.
were like once, we were still doing our twice-a-month meetings, and we were doing like a Saturday retreat like once a quarter, more or less, or every other month, and that didn't prove well because a lot of people couldn't make Saturdays
yeah.
or 2.
Right, okay.
No, there were a lot
It's
of
hard.
Saturdays where we didn't have a lot of people.
But
Yeah.
if we're
It's hard
gonna
to
do,
coordinate.
if we were gonna say one board meeting a month, then the second board meeting, it wouldn't have to be that Wednesday. If we're gonna do it just as professional development with a short business meeting, we could do it the 4th Wednesday if that would work for everybody, because then it wouldn't matter that the
And
meetings
if there
were
was
back
something
to back.
important, we could discuss it.
Payroll and pay orders wait that long?
Yeah.
And I am
can.
usually around to sign, if Karen emails me and says, can you come in and sign?
So do a board meeting on the 1st, and then do professional development and any,
Other emergent business,
Right.
like pay orders and if there's something else, does that work for people?
maybe try it.
We could
Our
give
second board meeting a month had been the rotating amongst the schools, too.
Oh, that's true. That's
Yeah, so
true.
we
And
wanna keep-
presentations, and
That's
it
right.
does keep us sort of more connected with,
And it would
the
be really
individuals.
long if we did that, and
The PD.
administrators' reports and.
Oh, at the first meeting, yeah. What are thoughts?
My suggestion is what it was originally, we keep the same kind of format, I don't care what the days are, you know, whether it's, and it makes sense to skip a week and not to back up on, 2 weeks in a row. I mean, when we have a 5-week month, you wouldn't have that problem. but
Right.
We don't always have those, so.
What about changing the second meeting of the month to a different day of the week? That wouldn't mess up yours, you'd be
I
able
mean,
to
it
do
wouldn't
something.
bother
different.
me. I mean,
Like a Tuesday or a Thursday?
how would that impact the rest of our meetings? What do we have?
Well, our,
Yeah,
policy and
policy.
B and G are usually the second Tuesday. Finance is usually the first Monday, does that sound right? Andy?
Last.
Last Monday, sorry.
Our
think it
first
can always
Tuesday,
change.
Dave.
I'm sorry?
first Tuesday is policy and
Policy and B and
building.
G, gotcha.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
month it's weird.
Yeah, this one
Right,
was a weird
just
one.
because of,
So, yeah, we don't have as many board
Tuesdays don't
committee
work for you?
commitments late.
It's I've worked my daughter's schedule around
Right.
basically
Wednesday.
being here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should just stick with what we have.
Leave well enough
can-
alone.
I can switch which Wednesday of the month we go, but
I get
I'm
it.
pretty much
Okay.
allotted
Yeah.
Wednesdays to
Okay,
school board.
so we'll keep our
We tried.
yeah. We'll keep that, and then, locations for postings of warnings. Right now, there are town offices, schools, transfer stations, post office, general stores, central office, and we need 3.
We need 3 altogether within the district, not
think
3
we
within
nailed
each
it.
town.
Yeah, so I think we're
We've
good.
had this conversation.
Yep.
before.
Keep what we have.
Keep what we have.
Okay. Everyone's good with that? Okay. We have Rutland Herald as our newspaper of record. Does that still work for everybody? They're still here?
not
I'm
like we have
wondering
any
this modern
choice.
age of,
We need a newspaper.
Valentine.
yeah, well, I don't have any other suggestion, but
I think something has to be non-online.
We have to warn, like policies, for example, annual meeting, et cetera, we have to warn.
They
those
have to be published.
Published, yeah.
And I agree that it seems antiquated, but like, I know for legal stuff, like if there's a notice to creditors or something, it still has
It
to go in
still
the
go-
paper.
goes in the
Doesn't-
paper.
Yeah.
It
Even
does
though
not
nobody
matter.
reads it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I have to do that for all the zoning notices.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's really, since they don't publish over the weekend.
It makes it
Yeah.
very
onto
difficult.
Monday, it's really hard to time it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, if John would get a newsletter going in Clarendon, we'd be able to do it through newsletters, but we
That's
don't have
true,
one.
because we have something, do we have something in, what's in Wallingford?
Wallingford has its newsletter.
And Tinmouth has their little Tinmouth Tales. or
Good
Tales of-
luck.
I've heard this before.
Yeah, good luck.
Okay, we'll keep it with the
Moving on.
Rutland Herald. Our bank is People's United. I don't think we have any reason to change that. Stan would be very angry with us if we changed it
I'll
on
just
you.
go back for a second. Are there any of the smaller little newspapers that would qualify?
All I can speak to that is in interacting with Sean, who's tried to work with some of the smaller papers, he
Yeah.
finds it hard to connect and get things published. So in terms
Okay.
of consistency, Rutland
Herald,
Herald's our
yeah,
best,
okay.
best bet.
Leave it alone.
And then we would need to appoint our truant officer, and that would be Deputy Hoffman. Would we continue with Deputy Hoffman by consensus?
Sounds
Yes.
good.
Okay. Move on from there, and we need to affirm that we use Robert's Rules of Order for small boards as our parliamentary procedure. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yes.
And then our committees. Does anyone, the easiest way to do it is our committees are Finance, Buildings and Grounds, Policy, Personnel, Negotiations, Executive, and we have an ad hoc community engagement. Do we want to make the community engagement we have to do that, though, by amending our bylaws, don't we?
Most
Yes,
likely.
to make it an official.
So would we like to consider that and then warn that appropriately to make it a standing committee of the board?
Yes. Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's going to be long-term.
Okay.
That's good PR.
Uh-huh. Okay.
If we're going to do that, are there any other bylaw changes that we need to consider?
Yeah, it might be worth a bigger review.
I think that, we have some issues around advisory committees, if
Yeah.
I recall correctly. So maybe Dave and I can investigate that. We could talk about it next meeting, come up with what we want to warn at once,
Yep,
and then do it. This way we're in line with everything. Does that make sense?
yes.
So does anyone want to change their committees? Because I would propose that we just stick with what we have, since it seems to work. But if anyone would like to change,
And we'll get an update, or we'll
And
get
then
it
we'll
on a
get-
list again
yeah.
so that we remember.
I'll just say that I have not been able to make policy on the fourth Monday. When I accepted,
oh, finance.
or finance rather. So when I began this role, I had a different job, and my job has changed, so my hours have changed. So I have not been able to make policy. What did I say?
You said,
Oh, finance. Okay.
Well, you said the
you
fourth
said
Monday,
policy.
which would have been finance.
You said
Policy.
I don't
policy,
even
but
know
you
what we mean.
referred.
You said the fourth Monday and policy, but those two
You
things
haven't got
aren't
to hang out
correct.
with Andy?
No,
Okay, the third, is it the third?
it's the last Monday of the
The
month.
last Monday of the month.
Probably the
Okay.
fourth.
I haven't
So,
been,
But you
would
can
you,
still make policy on the second or first Tuesday?
no, because it's during my work hours.
Okay.
So
you-
it depends. George, how's my attendance been?
Well,
We didn't call the true.
I guess you wouldn't be quite at the gold star level, but
Right.
you're there.
I'm not a starter, right?
Start level.
Yeah, it's during it depends on what my workday looks like.
Does
so.
the finance committee need to change its time? Or is that something that?
Yeah, what is your time limits?
Well, my hours are 10 to 6.
Okay,
oh,
Right. So it just depends. On some days I can make it and others I can't.
well, John's committee meets at 6 on Tuesdays.
Yeah. You want to join buildings and grounds rather than policy?
He could
But you
probably
still like
delay
policy.
10 minutes or something
Like
if needed
policy.
I'll
to.
swap ya.
What are you?
I'm buildings and grounds and not policy, but I
Okay.
come to policy
I
anyway.
like policy, that's the thing.
Well, you can always
I like-
come.
I go.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and you can even take on a work role.
All right, if no one has an issue with my work schedule and conflicts, then I'd like to stay on policy.
Okay.
so you're going
Okay.
to stay the way, we'll keep the configurations. Anybody else? Is
Are
everybody?
you
are
want
you staying on
off finance?
finance as well, Liz?
Well,
could-
right, finance
you
I have
come
not,
anyway.
I'm in
Come anyway.
White River Junction on
Right. so
Okay,
forget
so
it.
off of finance.
Monday of
Okay.
every month and haven't been able to make
What
it.
we can do, Liz, is talk about that a little bit in policy, and maybe John and I will talk and see what we can
And
Oh, whether
since,
you could.
manipulate.
That leaves no Wallingford person on finance, though.
I usually show up for finance.
Okay.
I'm not on the committee, but I usually show up for finance. So I could add myself to finance if that works.
Is there something you're not on?
What?
Chairs are
Is there
sort
something
of,
you're not on?
but chairs belong to all committees.
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
technically a
Yeah,
part,
she-
yeah.
part of the joy of being the chair.
Oh,
Anne
yeah,
Marie,
crap, my name
you're
shows up
over
a
there.
lot
More.
here, yeah.
Me too.
5 cents an hour.
What we don't have listed here, though, is community engagement. So that's Maria, Amy, John, and Liz? Okay.
French Martin.
Okay. Just so that when we warn that, we have the right names attached to
So
it.
do we have somebody from Shrewsbury on there? When are you guys meeting now?
We're making it up as we go along. We don't have a set meeting time, but we should probably choose one.
Yeah.
We will choose one. We'll choose one at the next meeting.
If it's something that I
next.
can come to, I would
That's up in the
join.
air.
Okay, so keep Adrian in the loop, and we'll put you down as a tentative.
Okay.
Member
If
of-
they pick a time that works.
Okay.
We'll talk to you about what times might work for you.
We had some challenges with engaging with community members, so we often meet on a Saturday morning because that's what's been most convenient for people to join us. But it is kind of based on who wants to meet with us and what their schedule is.
And we haven't currently got an interested and available community member,
I
so.
thought we had somebody.
We did, but
No, it didn't work out. Okay.
All right, well, we'll let you guys get us a list. Maria, maybe you can get us a list.
I will
when
get
you
us a
guys-
list.
Okay. And then, so we have that. We have our committees done, and I think we're done then with our reorganization. Yes?
Well, couple
Oh.
of things.
We're gonna,
Go
did I
ahead.
miss the payroll and pay orders?
Yes, you did.
Well, it's my next page, had I turned to the next page on the agenda. So George and Doug, will you continue in that role?
Well, I can. I didn't do it today, but I would get it most of the
Tried.
times.
I got a couple signatures on there for you. I saw them on there.
And
Did you? Did I
Yeah,
must have,
you came in one.
I must have got,
and
okay.
then Adrian, will you continue to be the VSBA board rep?
Yeah. Otherwise, I'd have to,
Yeah.
no, it wouldn't be good.
And then George, will you continue to be our Stafford?
No,
No, really?
no, I can't.
Good heavens.
I am at the point where I'm dealing with several, I guess you'd say, frustrating but minor issues.
Okay.
Mornings are quite hard.
When do they meet?
8:00 a.m. quarterly.
For the meeting, the RAB meeting, the advisory meeting is, that's that schedule, and the program is what I've been on, but doesn't mean that the person has to be on program. But the
Right.
program is first Wednesday of the month.
7:30 or?
It's 8:00 these days.
And quarterly, when is it? It's just,
It is just quarterly. I could give you the dates.
When does the program meetings, the one that
It's-
you said was month to month? That's
First,
also-
it's first Wednesday of the month.
Next Wednesday.
In the morning, though? too?
Yeah, 8:00. Yeah.
Well worth going to those meetings.
Yes, it is, very important.
I mean, if nobody else wants to do it, I'll sign up, but I won't fight anybody over it.
Well, the committee meetings, we get into, programs effectiveness and
Yeah,
get
no,
into whether or not we
it's
need
a
a new one.
valuable-
In fact, we spent a lot of debate over Bill, what's his name, the music teacher
Oh,
that's gone.
okay.
So,
I didn't realize he was gone.
and that was simply a matter of numbers. I mean, less
Yeah.
students overall, he ended up with less students, down to 3, I think it
Well,
was.
So
I
you'll-
mean, some of the schools have very successful music
That's the
programs
other
like that,
piece
so
of it,
maybe-
yeah. So,
So you're stepping into that?
So you're
I mean, I
happy
will
to do
if
that?
nobody else wants to.
Anybody else want to fight Adrian for it? Yeah, okay.
Or even just ask.
I'm not fighting Adrian for anything.
No, this is not fighting.
Arm wrestle,
Tammy's
arm
word.
wrestle, there you go. Okay.
for your information, I sent in a resignation to that committee this morning.
Okay.
Oh, you
Thank-
did? Okay.
All right, I think that we are set with our reorganization then. So we will move to approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? My understanding is we can eliminate number 10, that second executive session we no longer need.
I'd like to still ask for a few minutes on a different topic that qualifies for executive session with the board, but I promise I'll be brief. And I'll come up with the language for that.
Okay. So we'll still keep that at the end of the meeting?
Yes, that'd be
Okay.
great. More appropriate.
And then I need a motion to approve, oh, is everyone good with that change? Okay. We need a motion to approve the minutes from February 5th and February 27th, please.
I move that we approve the minutes of 2/5 and 2/27, subject to correction.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion, any corrections? Did anyone notice? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of February 5th and February 27th, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? I forgot the word. It's been a very long day. Okay, sure.
Can I make a correction? As I look, what I wanted to talk to you about in executive session later, I think would be more appropriate to do an open session. So if I can just
Oh.
do that during other business, that would be.
Okay, then we'll eliminate the executive session. Okay. And then any public input or announcements? Sure, none. I would just like to say that we would thank our voters for passing our budget. That was a very nice thing. We appreciate it. We are very appreciative of that. And then we need a motion to go into executive session for the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee.
So moved.
And second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
We're in executive session at 7:25, and we're going back into the conference
Yes.
room. Okay. So we are out of executive session at 8:08 with no action taken. And we will move on to committee business, which is, the first item is personnel, and we have a contract to approve.
Yeah, so I'd like to ask the board for a motion and approval. We have a 2-year contract proposed for Daniel Betts as the principal at Wallingford Elementary, effective 2021 school year.
Is there a second?
Somebody did already.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the contract for Daniel Betts, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Well, Daniel, if you're watching this, congratulations. And Liz has a specific personal request that
Oh,
we,
everybody wants a puppy.
There are 11 board members.
that's
That
what we
would work
figured,
out.
11 board members, 11 puppies. I don't think that there's any other personnel action. I'm
no other
acting in
personnel
Len's stead, so we'll move on to policy. George?
Hi, policy. Our next meeting is the 10th, 5 o'clock, here in the conference room. And we'll undertake to see if we need to do any organization of the committee. And we have at least 3 policies that I'm aware of that we need to give a quick look over for a first reading. And probably we'll have some new ones that we ought to be looking at as well. I am done.
Okay, thank you. Negotiations, Adrian?
We are in the midst of negotiating with both teachers and support staff and making progress.
Excellent. John, buildings and grounds.
Our next meeting is the 10th at 6 o'clock, and I understand we're going to have our friends from EEI in to give us an update on where we are with the performance contract stuff, so we may have some data finally.
We'll meet at
Excellent.
Mill River.
We'll be here, yes.
Excellent, thank you. Bria, community engagement.
Our next meeting is next week on Wednesday night at 5 p.m. And we'll continue to work on the community engagement plan for the board, which we're hoping to be able to bring to you at the beginning of May.
Oh, that
so
would-
that we can talk about it more, so we can bring a final one in June.
Excellent, thank you. Finance, Andy, the numbers.
Yes, the numbers. I'm just getting my dates in the calendar here. All right. This is the pay orders. It's combined. It's dated March 4th, 2020. From the operating account, $64,764.61.
Have the number, could I have that number again?
Ann gets it from Stan, but.
Okay.
It's exact.
So you don't have to get it, grab it. This, another one from the operating account of $24,673.99. For officials, $2,550. After-school program, $771.99. Lunch program, $38,526.93. Total of the group of these pay orders is $131,287.52. And payrolls, I have two. This one is dated March 4th, 2020. It is for the total of $771.99. That's also a pay order. I guess we will remove that one, and leave it as a pay order. The other payroll I have is dated March 4th, 2020. This is for a total of $2,550. And if that one also listed as, nope. So that will stand as a pay roll of $2,550. The others are pay orders. I move that the pay orders and payroll be approved as read.
Second.
Thank you. Is there discussion?
I haven't had a chance to review them as
Need to
fully
look
as
at
I'd like. Doug may have done better.
Now, the only thing I was concerned about, it looked like two of them were duplicated. I had a talk with both Stan and the other person in the thing there, and it would just seem that they were sort of an informational on one side, so there really was only the one. A bunch of numbers were close to being the same with the same people beside it. But everything else was fine.
Okay. Everyone, any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the pay orders and payroll as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Finance Committee will meet on Monday, March 30th. We meet at 4:30 in the conference room here at Mill River.
Okay.
That
Thank you.
was 30, right?
Yep.
Thank you.
Our student board member is not here, so we will not hear from her. And we will then move on to transact other legal business. George?
Hi. Thought we ought to talk just a minute about the student board member. We haven't been very successful this year, and I wonder how we need to go about seeing if we can be more successful with that endeavor. You know, I don't know if maybe we ought to be thinking about freshmen and sophomore filling a role, because they might have more free time to get to the meetings. Or maybe we need to look at a group of students that certainly could do fill the role, but may not have as many commitments with sports and whatnot. You don't always necessarily need high flyers to serve in a capacity such as this, I don't think.
We had talked about maybe getting the student council or the student government to send a rep every meeting, or, the meeting that, did that
That
go
would be good,
anywhere?
yeah.
But I thought Tyler was gonna talk about it, or
Didn't go anywhere that I know of, but that doesn't mean it hasn't been.
Is it
Maybe reminded?
Is it necessary to have a student here? I mean, could a student prepare like a video presentation
something.
that we could air and share and watch
I
and?
think that we had liked having someone here because we felt for certain discussions that they provided some, in the past, we've had student board members who provided some good perspective to board members in a discussion before we voted on something
And
that.
timely.
And, that may have even swayed board members' votes on issues. So that's why I like the idea of an update from them, could be videoed or, something like that. I think having someone physically here, even if it's just one of those meetings a month, would be helpful, just for that purpose.
I wonder if we could make it part of the election process. You know, you're running for class president, you're running for those
Oh.
things, you're running for the school board, and almost make it an elective process.
And I wouldn't have any trouble with that. I mean, I know that we've, in the past, it's been sort of approach some student and see if they'd be interested, but the election process might generate some more interest. We might end up with a student that their activities are such that they'd be able to do a good job for us.
Or are students required to have community service
Yeah.
hours? Would that count as community service hours?
Well, I certainly
It
would think so.
That would be,
would.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would think that would
Right?
help.
So to give an incentive, to incentivize the role a little bit.
Absolutely.
I could reach out to Tyler and start that conversation again with him and see if we can come up with some ideas, and maybe he can get some information back to us as to how that might work for next
Right.
year, maybe. Because we're in the middle of the year. And then, Adrian, you wanted to make a comment?
Oh, are we already on that part?
Yes.
I just wanted to recognize that we had a longtime Shrewsbury board member, Randy Page, who wasn't on the board when we transitioned into the merged district, but he continued a role of coming down every year to count ballots with his partner Nelson Haley, and he died a few weeks ago, and I wanted just to acknowledge that loss to the community and to, I guess, thank him and his family for his contributions.
Would you like us to maybe send a card or something to the family?
That would be really nice, because his wife has worked for the district for years and just retired a couple of years ago, Dina Page.
Dina Page, yeah.
So I think that would be very nice.
Well, I would
Thank
move
you.
that we do so if we need a motion.
Yep.
I'd like to be in a motion.
Sure. Okay. I will see if I can remember to bring that to our next meeting. Get a sympathy card and we could all sign it.
Okay. I think that would be nice. If you want, I can get it too.
I actually might have one. I know that's a weird thing. I know.
It's like Let's Make a Deal. Was it Let's Make a Deal, that show that used to be like, what do you have, who has a this or that?
I
Yeah.
do.
My mother always used to have a soldering iron in her pocketbook for years.
If that you think that's appropriate, soldering iron.
Well, she worked for an electronics company, so she always had.
Folks think that this is appropriate.
Okay, great. No, thank you. That would be great. And then Dave, was there something that you wanted?
I have a few things to talk to the board about. And a couple of these are
Do you want to start it with BJ?
preliminary to the next topic, which would be agenda building, but things I've heard tonight that I think we could put on the next agenda. Tammy and I starting some bylaw review to come up with suggestions to the board for things that we need to look at in our bylaws. We were going to discuss the summertime childcare concept that I brought up to you last meeting. We'll put that on the next agenda just to have some open dialogue to see what you think about that. I need to talk to you about the professional development session. You may recall, last time we gathered, we're scheduled for a PD session at our next meeting on March 18th. And Amy, you were going to be looking at one of your connections for the April
Yeah,
possibly?
April.
Like
Yeah.
20-something,
The kids are
right?
coming in March?
So here's the scoop with the next PD session. The program that the students wanted to put on needs to be not in like a board PD session. It needs to be more of a community information gathering type of scenario. So I've been coordinating with Deborah Gardner-Bosch. They're actually looking at a date of a week from that Wednesday, March 25th, and doing kind of a public type thing somewhere in this building at 5:30. Would be a 90-minute scenario where they would work through some community dialogue to identify and get feedback on things. And they have asked me to explicitly invite the board members because they'd love to have as many of you as possible there. But
What's the
it
date?
wouldn't be a board meeting officially. You'd just be board members attending a public meeting. So March 25th, 5:30, somewhere in this building. I'm not sure of the location as of yet.
And
And
what
that would
time
leave
was
us with
that?
no
5:30.
PD at the March 18th session, but this thing in lieu of that.
5:30.
Oh,
5:30. Does that make sense to everyone? Cool. Last thing I wanted to talk about, and this is what I was thinking of bringing up in executive session, but I don't think there's grounds for it, need to talk about it publicly, is everybody's favorite word nowadays, coronavirus.
Yes.
I just want to talk to you about where our heads are on those things and what the approach that we are trying to take is. As I think we all know, the coronavirus is real and it does significantly affect some people, but we also know that the media is playing an interesting role in
Yeah.
how it gets portrayed. We know that social media feeds into that as well. My experience has been that the Vermont Department of Health and the CDC are working hard to not respond too reactively, which could cause unnecessary panic. But what's interesting as those organizations are working to not be too reactive is you get people who create kind of their own panic. And when there's a lapse of information in between, people will sometimes fill in that information and things can take on a life of their own. Here in our schools, we've been fortunate because due to some events that happened in late January with some early coronavirus experience that we were having, we've been a little bit ahead of the game on getting information out to our community members. The guidance that we've received from places like the CDC, Vermont Department of Health, et cetera, even the Agency of Ed, that guidance has really not changed in terms of what people need to be thinking about and doing to protect themselves. But we're still trying to think ahead about the what ifs and just painting a picture for you. My concern about the biggest what ifs would be, I won't even say if, I'll say when we start to see cases in Vermont and some of that community panic starts to escalate a little bit more. I could see a worst case scenario where either a state agency like the AOE or a local official like myself or working with the board where we'd have to make decisions about schools being closed for a chunk of time. If we were talking about something like that, just to make something up, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? Whatever that thing might be, there are a lot of concerns on the back end of what that does to the school year, what that does to instruction, what that does to people's paychecks, what that does to people's summer vacation. There's a lot of things that need to be navigated and addressed. Our leadership team is starting those conversations. We're going to be kind of doing the worst case scenario planning, like how could we deliver, remote e-learning with kids that have that access? How could we prepare materials for kids to have at home, knowing that they're going to be at home, so that we're not actually losing instructional days? What would that look like on the state level? Would there be any concept of forgiveness of days? We have 177 student days. Law requires 175 minimum. If the state said something had to happen with closures, would they trim that a little bit? We don't know a lot of those answers, but we're trying to plan for all the what ifs. We'll continue to communicate the same message in terms of precautions and care, because that is the consistent message. If that messaging changes, we'll communicate whatever the new messaging is. But honestly, I'm taking my direction from Department of Health and AOE. We're not going to create magical stuff that we decided was a good idea. We're going to take it from the sources that are controlling all of that. And obviously, as a board, I'd keep you informed if there was anything interesting going on. The next kind of inflection point, I think, for me is I've got a Superintendent's Association trustee meeting Friday. I know we're going to have some FaceTime with Secretary French. We've been speaking with the agency about how important it is that the agency kind of fill that void that I talked about, and that we need a consistent statewide approach. So I'm looking forward to that conversation, but I don't know what exactly to expect of it. But if there's anything reportable to you, I'll make sure I get back to you. So just want to share that publicly with you.
Thank you.
Questions on that or comments on that?
I know that there is a student trip to the Mediterranean that's been in the works for quite a while.
That is correct.
I understand that there are no changes to that as of right now.
Yeah, I don't know all the details on that. That's one of those, it's not an official school trip, outside vendor, our kids are
Right.
involved, right? My understanding is that the vendor has offered people some different options related to how the individuals may want to handle a scheduled trip, but I haven't heard anything conclusive about where that's landing. I think the next few weeks will be telling. I want to say that trip is in April sometime.
I think that's what I remember. Yeah.
I think the next few weeks will be telling to see kind of how this rolls out and if there's more stuff overseas and.
That's been the communication that I've seen from the Facebook group associated with that.
Yeah,
is that
got
it's
it.
still a wait and see. We're aware of it. We're gonna, figure it out as we get closer. So.
You bet.
Okay. Any other legal business?
Just a quick curiosity, Amy, how does that kind of information coming through your folks?
I would just encourage everybody to be diligent with hand washing.
Not pass pens around?
Just realized that.
Whose was that?
Not gather in confined small spaces. I think 2 or 3 really important things. 1, make sure you're washing your hands, you're not touching your face. 2, if you have a fever, if you have a cough, if you're concerned about your health or the health of your child, please stay home, work with your provider. It's not really helpful to go to work or to send your kids to school if they do have a fever. And 3, I can't remember what the third important thing was. I think just practice good self-care. So eating well, getting lots of sleep, staying hydrated, all the things that I strive to do and often fail at every day. But feel that as the nurse of the board, that's what I hope for all of you. That's my advice. So.
Thank
Do as
you.
I say, not as I do.
Thank you.
So then we'll move on to agenda building. So we have the summertime pre-K childcare conversation. We're going to be doing, we're not going to be doing any PD then, so we will still.
No PD.
No
So
PD. So then will we have central office reports?
Would you like central office and principal reports? I had
I think that
written
would be
down.
good, yeah.
We'll
And-
probably have some first read policies.
Okay. And anything else that we need to add?
Actually, I forgot to mention in the other business to thank the Shrewsbury Parent Group that provided all of the food and stuff for our town meeting, even though it wasn't a school meeting. It was still much appreciated at the town level.
Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Actually, and the Wallingford Elementary sixth graders under Barb Naughton, they did a fundraising bake sale, which
Also
was
good.
really nice.
Yeah,
And they did a wonderful job.
good. Yeah. Yeah.
And that next board meeting is at Clarendon.
Okay, and that next board
Back on the
meeting
road.
is at Clarendon. We're back on the road again.
If anybody would like an election kind of
Yeah.
statistic, the town of Clarendon, for the first time ever, ended up with, during the day, ended up with more than 2,000 registered voters, which their highest
Wow.
before has been about 1,800 or so.
Wow,
Wow,
So that's kind of interesting.
interesting.
yeah, good. Presidential
Years.
Do we-
yeah.
primaries usually are.
Probably.
Could we hear the breakdown of how the budget passed in different towns?
They're commingled.
Oh, they are. Oh, they're commingled here.
Yeah.
We wouldn't know. That's so exciting.
All the ballots
That
were
was the
pink and they
point.
just bring them all
I know.
together.
But I'm still curious.
I know, so it's.
Yeah.
As a voter, you get a pink slip.
Okay, so then we have no need for that second executive session. We've stricken that. So, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so
Thanks, everyone.
Wash your hands.